Every morning before sunrise, a long queue would form outside Mama Bisi's small roadside Akara stand. Workers on their way to the office, students rushing to school, commercial drivers, even wealthy people in expensive cars stopped to buy her Akara. People swore that it was the tastiest Akara they had ever had. It was crispy on the outside, soft in the inside, and somehow had a flavor no one could explain. There is something special about this woman's recipe, customers would say with a smile. Business was booming. Within 3 years, Mama BC has built a beautiful house, bought 2 cars, and opened 3 more Akara shops across the city. Everyone admired her success, but then, one rainy Tuesday morning, everything changed. A young man who had recently been hired to help at the shop accidentally arrived much earlier than usual. He expected to help prepare the beans. Instead, he witnessed something that made him freeze at the doorway. Mama Bisi wasn't using ordinary cooking oil. She was pouring a strange dark liquid from an old metal container into the giant frying pan. The smell was unlike anything he had ever experienced. When she noticed him watching, she quickly covered the container and smiled. "You came early today, oh," she said calmly. The young man forced a smile, but deep inside, he knew something wasn't right. He had no idea that uncovering the truth would put his own life in danger. The next morning, the young man arrived before dawn, determined to find out why Mama Bisi insisted on opening the shop alone every morning. He hid behind a stack of empty crates and watched in silence. As expected, she locked the entrance from the inside before anyone else arrived. Then she reached beneath an old wooden table and carefully brought out the same rusty metal container he had seen the day before. She looked around to make sure no one was watching. Slowly, she unscrewed the lid and poured a small amount of thick, dark liquid into the hot frying oil. Almost immediately, a strange smell filled the air, not strong enough for people outside to notice, but different from the familiar aroma of frying akara. Moments later, she mixed the beans and dropped the first batch into the bubbling oil. By the time the shop opened, customers were already lining up. "This is the best akara in the whole city," one man said. "I have tried making it at home, but it never tastes like yours," another customer laughed. Mama BC simply smiled and thanked them, while the young assistant stood frozen, unable to stop thinking about that mysterious container. The following morning, the young assistant came even earlier. This time, he wasn't just curious, he was determined to know the truth. He quietly slipped behind the storage room and watched through a small crack in the wooden wall. Mama Bisi waited until she was sure the shop was empty. Then she opened the rusty container once again. But instead of pouring it directly into the frying oil, she carefully mixed a few drops into a bottle of cheap vegetable oil before adding it to the pot. When she left the room for a moment, the assistant hurried inside. He picked up the container and read the faded label. His heart nearly stopped. It wasn't a secret family recipe. It was an industrial flavoring concentrated that was clearly marked not intended for direct food preparation. He quickly put it back exactly where he found it. Suddenly, he heard footsteps returning. He barely made it out before Mama Bisi walked back in. As the first batch of akara sizzled in the oil, customers began gathering outside, smiling as they breathed in the familiar aroma. The assistant looked at the queue, wondering if any of them had the slightest idea that the famous taste they had loved came from something that was never meant to be part of their breakfast. Unable to keep the discovery to himself, the assistant reported what he had seen to the local food safety authorities. Within days, inspectors arrived at Mama Bisi's shop without warning. They collected samples of the oil, the mysterious container, and the several batches of akara for testing. News of the inspection spread through the neighborhood almost immediately. The long queues that had once stretched down the street disappeared overnight. Customers who had praised her akara now refused to buy from her, choosing other vendors instead. After the investigation, the authorities ordered the shop to close for violating food safety regulations. Her other branches soon shut down as well, and the reputation she had spent years building vanished in a matter of days. In the end, The assistant realized that the truth may take time to surface, but it rarely stays hidden forever. No matter how successful a business becomes, cutting corners and deceiving customers always comes at a price. Trust is hard to earn, easy to lose, and once it is gone, it may never return. Success built on deception never lasts.